it's a bit more collaborative, which is big talk for me. I actually largely putter around on my own.
That's exactly what it is. So, we said, he was like, we work so well together. We rarely work together. That's actually the reality.
Is that the key? Is that the key?
We work so well together.
Yeah.
There you go.
How we work so well together is I rarely see him all day.
I might put that on a shirt and send it to you guys.
No, I basically will run the crew, and I'm in charge of basic vegetable production. He just gets everything prepped and does tractor work. And sometimes I think it's we're falling into those roles. I never wanted to fall into those roles. But then I'm but actually I'm doing the part that I want to do. And he's doing the part that he wants to do. So why are we pretending that's not a thing? And he makes lunch. So that helps my ego.
I think it's because that he's hungry and he wants to eat. And he's like, well, since I'm here,
he will just wait.
I'm not I will. I'll just be like, that
seems
like a lot. I have a lot to do here. And then he's like, no, we're definitely eating right now.
This is the Farm Hop Life podcast. I'm Matt DeRozier. Today, my guests are Tenzin and Stacey Botsford of Red Door Family Farm in Athens, Wisconsin, where they have 36 acres for their organic vegetables, operate a farm-to-family program, and also supply boxes of food for Afghan refugees. How are you guys doing today?
We're great. Hi.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you for being here. I appreciate your time. So, do you guys want to tell me, how did you guys get started in farming? Everybody's story is a little bit different, and usually some people started on the farm, their grandparents had a farm, their parents left the farm, and somehow they made their way back to it. So how did you guys get started?
Yeah, you want to go ahead?
Well, we're first generation back on the farm. Both of us had grandparents who grew up on farms. And so we started it all from scratch here, essentially. But I don't know. I think we kind of came to it for maybe our reasons are maybe prioritized differently, but for a variety of reasons, including wanting to be tangibly productive on a day-to-day sense, as well as wanting to tie into a community in a meaningful way and do something that we felt good about and something that we felt good about raising a family doing.
We actually came to farming separately. We went to high school together and then did a lot of other things separately. And then we both came around to farming separately, which I always think is really interesting.
I think so. Yeah.
When we ended up over a phone call deciding that maybe we should have a farm and date again.
Again. Okay. That's kind of a cool story. I like that.
We didn't rush in.
So then how long have you been farming?
Well, we have been on this property for 7 years. Before that, we worked in Oregon at a kind of a diversified animal farm for 2 years there. And then before that, I was 2 years on a organic vegetable farm. So.
Oh, okay. And then you just decided to go do your own thing after that?
Yep. So we got some experience in Oregon. And then at first we thought maybe we were going to stick around out there, but land prices were really high and we just didn't feel like we could really afford to make a living at it there. So we grew up in Wisconsin. So then we're relocating back home.
Very closer to grandparents.
There you go. Where it all started. Yeah.
Yeah.
So then what motivates you to grow your own food?
You want to take this one?
Yeah. So we probably in hindsight would have done a lot better growing other people's food. But no, I think we really like the challenge of putting something together. We work well together as a team. We worked together prior to starting a farm, prior to getting married, prior to dating again. and we knew that we enjoyed working together and that we sort of complement each other well and are willing to rely on each other in certain capacities. Not that we need to spend all day every day together in the same projects exactly, but on the grander scale, we seem to work well together. And I think that it was somewhat naive, actually, that we needed to start our own farm. I don't think that we would have needed to. We had some pretty interesting opportunities to, maybe sort of buy in as like on a partner level on a farm, or manage farms, or do different things that I think now I see more opportunity there, whereas I didn't at the time. I was sort of, or maybe we were more hung up on sort of, but the whole idea is you have this land, and then that land is worth, that's your retirement, as you have created now a farm, right. And that's your nest egg for retirement. Now, I think having done more of the business management and the production end of things and all of that, I see that you could actually build
kind of like a legacy. Yeah, you can like,
or just, you could actually just put away money,
yeah.
You could work and you could be careful and run it like a business, which it is, and you could put away money and have a retirement that's made out of money instead of out of dirt.
Yeah.
Well, for me, I think like growing our own food was important because or not growing our own food, but just growing food for the community. It was like like I said before, like it's like a tangible thing that matters. And there's a lot of things that we can all do in the world that maybe matter. But for me, this is something that I know that I can do that can help, and there will always be value in producing food. So it was important to be able to make a connection to people in that way for me.
Yeah, that's great. I think building community is really important. I actually found you guys through Instagram through another couple in Black Creek, Wisconsin, that they're all about community as well. And so, I think that's great. I think food, I mean, even just culturally brings a lot of people together. And so that makes a lot of sense, especially when they can find it locally. Like they don't have to go to the grocery store and be like, I don't really care where this comes from, because I think that's actually starting to go away a lot more. People are like, wait, this came from like 1,000 miles away, when I know I passed like, I don't know, at least two farms on my way to the grocery store that probably have what I'm buying. Like, this is insane.
We've been saying for a long time, one of the reasons we do this, because like the food system, the way it is, it can't sustain, it will collapse. And like, now that it's happening, it's like, like you don't want to see it happen. But at the same time, it's a little like, it was obvious that it was going to happen, that it can't keep going the way it is.
Right. Yeah. You hate to be right, but you're like, I kind of saw this coming. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. I think the writing is on the wall, and every, big major recall that gets everyone's attention and gets some national news, and every supply chain disruption and all those things re-emphasize that. And now they're not outliers. People are just sort of expecting that sometime in the middle of summer, there's going to be a outbreak of something on some sort of lettucey thing.
Right. Yeah. Yep. Washed with dirty water. And yeah. So what kind of methods or practices or techniques do you have on your farm? I saw that you guys have like 3 really big greenhouses.
We have 4.
What else do you have?
4 high tunnels.
Yeah.
4 high tunnels.
We're about as far north in Wisconsin as I would ever like to try to grow vegetables for a living.
Fair enough.
And so we focus a lot on season extension. We focus a lot on the CSA as sort of the mainstay of our farm, which means that we need to have a variety over our 20 weeks of CSA at least. And so that is a focus for us, in maintaining that variety throughout that season.
But we do also, because it's a CSA, we're really diversified. So we have to grow a lot of different kinds of things, which I think is really fun because it's just fun to figure out the puzzle. But it's just many things. So we make sure that we have I don't know if you can see the map back here, but there's a really dynamic crop rotation. Things have to happen in a certain way, and certain things have to fit in a certain way. And we put cover crop between our aisles so that we're making sure to conserve the land in appropriate ways. And we do use plastic probably more than we'd like to, but like we said, we're pretty far north. And without that plastic, I'm not sure that we'd be able to continue growing the variety that we can grow.
We grow on plastic at least as much for the soil warming properties of having black plastic mulch as we do for the weed control.
That makes sense. I mean, it's kind of I hate to use it a lot, but if this means that I'm able to generate income for myself, feed all these families that are relying on our CSA boxes, until a better option and frankly cheaper comes around, we're kind of stuck using plastic.
We continue to look for better options. There's some really interesting things happening in the hemp industry, hopefully making some sort of biodegradable plastics. Nothing has been organic certified yet. So that's a bit of a hang up for us. And it is. It's kind of like a necessary evil at the moment, but that will be something that we just continue working on and hope that we can, eventually find a better solution.
So, can you explain a little bit? You mentioned crop rotation as a technique. Do you want to explain a little bit about that? What crops you're using and how you decide and when you decide to rotate them around?
We basically only get one crop per any given square foot on the farm throughout the year. Aside from in the hoop houses, and with very few other exceptions, will we double crop. So our goal is to get either have it be coming out of a cover crop and going into a vegetable crop, or have it be a vegetable crop and go into a cover crop. So it's getting, so our double cropping, one of them is always a cover crop. And that's really because there's just not time in our season to have more other crops.
Okay.
And even in order to pull that off, we're having to sow cover crops in before crops are out in many cases, or vice versa. And so the rotation is basically, we have vegetables grouped by family type, essentially. And then, smaller ones. So like solanaceous, we don't grow as many beds worth of warm season solanaceous crops outside. And alliums kind of fit into one block. So they're separate families, but they move through the farm as a unit.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense.
And that way we're not putting, we're not coming back through something that might still be harboring a disease from a previous crop of that family. And so it just basically traces around the farm. We've got 6 blocks and they move. We do refine that and move things around once in a while, but we're kind of starting to settle into a groove. And the basis for the rotation is sort of more or less based on weed pressure. So we sort of start with the coming and then there's 5 blocks, and then one of them is a entirely fallow, full season cover cropping situation.
Oh, okay.
That's where the chickens live.
And then that's where the chickens live, in that cover crop.
Nice.
Primarily. We do use them to clean up stuff that's harvested already once in a while too.
That's a good technique. I like that.
Yeah, and so that refertilizes the ground a lot and gives the ground a chance to rest for a full season without being worked up. And so essentially coming out of that, then that should be our most weed-free period. So we put our more sensitive crops, carrots, direct sown stuff that is not real vigorous. And then we move through our plastic mulch beds, which have the weed control effect of the plastic mulch, and then into our more vigorous seeded crops, beans and corns and things like that.
That's awesome. I like that. I like that a lot. So what would you say that has worked well for you guys? It sounds like once you found out your little dynamic of the rotational cover cropping and crop rotation, that works pretty well. What else has worked pretty well for you guys in something that you found?
Do you mean as far as just production?
It could be production, could be a method that you've tried, or like, hey, orientating the chicken coop or whatever, 45 degrees this way works better for egg laying production, or I don't know, like phases of the moon has worked for us.
Right. Okay. Well, I think as far as like the stuff that's in plastic, for anyone who doesn't know what that looks like, is it's a raised bed and the plastic goes over the top, and then it's maybe raised about 4 inches, and then there's some dirt on the side. So holding the plastic down. And then there's so the top of the bed is maybe 3 foot wide. The whole bed maybe takes 4 feet. And then there's about 3 feet between each bed. So pretty like big distance. Yeah. Over time, we've sort of changed this method because at first we would make the beds and then there'd be incredible weed pressure in the aisles. So even though you had this nice clean bed, you have this weed pressure, which is just dropping weed seeds. And it's also creating sort of barriers for the wind. So then we had more disease. So we knew we had to figure something out for that. So then we started planting cover crops just with like a drop seeder down the aisles. And we thought, this is great. This is the thing now. And then we'd go through and we'd mow them, and that worked pretty slick. But then there's like this edge of the bed. Sorry, my camera's opposite. The edge of the bed that was like really challenging. So we'd go through and we would hand like with just like stirrup hose, go through and hit all the edges of the beds. And that would take weeks at a time. So finally, because of Instagram, I saw this really cool video. There we have these tractor mounted like coulters, kind of not coulters, like what are they called, like
spider hose?
Like spider hose. They're like you know what spider hose, they're like kind of just like fingers. And they will they'll kind of hit the edge of that bed. I'm trying to like simplify it because I don't want to get in the weeds too much here. But yeah, good one. But that tiny little tool that we figured out has saved us. I mean, like last year we didn't even like know what to do with all of our free time. It was amazing. Like Tenzin could do, he would like drive and we would be out in the field just like thinking about like, okay, we have to do this next. And then he'd be like, no, I finished the entire farm. And it was, so I guess we've learned how to mechanize a little bit. That's like the takeaway story. We didn't think we were going to be as big as we are. We didn't think we were going to be mechanized. We thought we were just going to do everything by hand. We just have changed our tune in a big way when we found out how effective tractors can be.
Right. It's amazing. All these attachments that they'll sell you to make money.
The employees are like clapping as he goes by, like, good job, man.
It's just like a parade, but the tractor's rustier.
That's all right. Yeah, some of the parades will still have 120-year-old tractors rolling through there. Still sounds the same.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, so that was like the biggest groundbreaker for us recently. And I know that maybe if you're not like fully into the farm scene, you can't like appreciate that little nugget, but it was pretty great.
Well, the way
Go ahead.
Our style of agriculture creates a whole lot of edge space, whether that's sort of the headlands at the end of the beds or just the actual edges of each bed. And we didn't have a solid system in place for managing that. And it really would get away from us. And so this allows us to hit that timing window and get that, nip that in the bud.
Sure. What I was going to say was, I'm sure all the even homesteaders and like, full-time farmers, when they find like that little tool that shaves off tons of time or makes it easier, both if they're lucky, they're just like, they know that feeling. They know exactly what you're talking about. So you guys had a problem with the weeds in between the beds. So your system at the time wasn't working well. Was there something else that has failed, or that you guys like got away from, or you had to modify it because it wasn't working? Is there any other?
So many failures.
Yeah.
I want to hear them. I want to hear.
Oh, so many. The big one, when we
Sure.
first moved here, oh, actually, the first one was that we lived in a camper. That was a fail. That sucked.
Just because it's
Sorry, you're
cramped?
going to start traveling soon, are you?
Ours was parked in a
Mud hole. No.
Oh,
So when
okay.
we moved here, we lived in this camper, and that was like a really difficult time for us. But then we built these 3 hoop houses, and they were like hoop houses made of love. We bought them off Craigslist for like $3,000, and we put them together. We're so broke. We put them together like with screws from Tenzin's dad's like garage or like his neighbor or something.
Actually, a friend of my dad's.
So like every screw was a different bit. So we're like putting it together with like every single different bit that you had.
Just take that bit and go right.
3 bits. I had like 3 bits in my mouth, and you'd like swap them out all the time. So we build these hoop houses, and they're wonderful. We're so proud of them, and they're just like amazing. And then like we had them for 1 year. You can see where this is gonna. We had them for 1 year, and then straight line winds hit just right and blew them all up. Like they went over the house. They went 100 yards down into our ponds. Like it was just a disaster in the middle. Like it was right in the morning. It was on our youngest daughter's first birthday. It's a great memory, right? So that was a good lesson because they were insured. And that is
a good tip, actually.
So I always say like those were like our liberal arts students. Like they were so well-meaning. They meant so well, and they were just the most lovely hoop houses ever. And then now we have we put them at the bottom of the hill, which is also a good lesson. We have they're like German soldiers. They're like really beefy and stacked perfectly, and they're exactly the same size.
They're the same size.
All the screws are the same.
Model.
All the same. Yeah, everything is like perfect with them. So hoop house placement was a really good lesson for us. Having insurance was a really good lesson for us. Hiring the right people, I think that has been a really good lesson for us over time. As far as crop production, I feel like every year there's like a little nugget of information, but nothing is like as dramatic as like the people and the stuff. I think has been more. Don't you think?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, we've tilled whole crops in on occasion, but usually there's something salvageable out there. But there's a lot of things, like planting onions 3 to a hole has saved us, I don't even know how many hours and personal favors, but pretty much everybody that we know has planted onions on our farm for some amount of time in the last 7 years.
I don't eat onions. My wife is allergic. Why do you plant 3 to a hole? Because
they still grow. But it's a lot easier to plant them 3 to a hole than to tease them apart and shove little baby roots down each hole.
Yeah, so we used to just plant. So we would put them in the trays when we were, seeding them, and then we pull them apart and put 1 per hole in the plastic. And then I was at some conference somewhere, and somebody was like, "No, we just take the whole plug and put 3 to a hole." And I was like, "That doesn't affect your yields?" And they were like, "Nah." So then the first year, I just like, "Well, let's just trial it because that would be way easier." And it totally worked. So now we plant 3 to a hole, and you take that for us, we're on the transplanter. So we just pop the whole thing out and you just shove them in, and it's definitely cut it in at least time in half. I'd say even more than half.
So then are you also, your yield is it actually 3 times on your onions?
No, we space the holes out a little bit more, but then it just saves the time transplanting them, but also they fill out that hole faster. So they have less weed pressure, and then those holes are spaced apart, and they seem to grow just fine, mashed in next to each other.
It'd be a third better though. We used to plant them at 6 inches, and now we plant them at a foot.
Right.
But the onions are the same size.
And the onions are essentially the same size, but they're just way easier to. They fit the system better. So it's a way to get the onions to fit our transplanting and cultivation system.
Sure.
better with less.
Make it a little smoother.
Yeah.
I gotcha.
Which is definitely a big thing. Figuring out spacings on things and getting them to work out to the best of your ability.
Other things we used to do farm to table dinners. So fun. We were really good at them. We have a beautiful barn, and we would make these gigantic farm to table.
That was like a community thing, I'm assuming.
Yeah, well, we'd charge. Okay. People would pay tickets, and
it was a community thing. We never made money on it.
Right, make them.
We spent a lot of money on it, and we made that money back.
Yeah, so it was awesome. People still are asking us to do these farm to table dinners. There is definitely a place in the world for these farm to table dinners, but at one point we just were like, we don't like this. We don't. Well, that helped. That helped us, but we didn't want to do it anymore. COVID just made it so we had an excuse. But we were farming, and we were farmers, and all of a sudden, 1 week out of the year, we decided that we're going to be totally different people.
Yeah, all of a sudden, we're going to be a restaurant.
Yeah, and we had to change our entire farm into a restaurant and make it like restaurant worthy, and the barn had to get, and it was amazing and it was beautiful. But what actually happened was we got different employees, and they were like, we didn't sign up for this. And I was like, you're totally right. You did not sign up for this. And then we dropped these meals, even though they're really well received and people really want them. But that was just it was just because we wanted to have a life that we enjoyed, and that was not enjoyable anymore.
Sure.
So I would say it wasn't necessarily a fail, but it wasn't like something that I would do.
Well, and it sort of put us on the map with some different people in our community that I think was helpful. I felt like it after hosting the farm dinners, it got easier to fill the CSA. Our farmers market sales went up. It gave people that connection to our farm, and whatever it was, them and their word of mouth impact did seem to ripple out, which was our real goal with that in the first place. Because even though we grew up here, I mean, we weren't farmers. We were just kind of like kids, we were gone, but nobody particularly wanted to hang out with as an adult.
Sure.
So we had to kind of reintroduce ourselves to the community in that way. And it did work very well for that. And I think that, all of this, or much of this, is to say that, we used to kind of do things thinking, can we pull this off and will it be of value? But we had a tendency to not see the value in not pushing too far outside of our normal parameters, or sort of the value of the efficiency of keeping up on things. And so I think in the last couple of years, we've had really solid employees and had a really good team. And we've put a lot of energy into trying to maintain that. But we also have reduced the number of external things. I think it's really easy, you have a farm, it's not that hard to raise a few pigs. And if you're going to raise a few pigs, you might as well raise a dozen pigs, and just things like that. So many things, right? But they all kind of add up, and they all gobble in a half an hour or an hour of your day. And so anything that really sort of detracts or takes a different energy. So even like the animals, which I love raising pigs. They're near and dear to my heart. I feel like I understand the world like a pig does. We relate to each other. But, it's like, okay, this is the manure on my boots now is a safety hazard once I walk out of the pig pen. And so now I've got to kind of manage that and compartmentalize my day. And so it's just a totally different schedule and a totally different energy and a totally different thing. And whereas there can be some very good symbiotic relationships there, many of them actually are just sort of another distraction as well.
Well, and then people wanted the stuff, so we would always say yes. I think for a long time we felt like we had to say yes to everything. Like they want the dinners, but they want pigs. Like everybody really wants chicken. Everyone wants eggs. And we just said yes to everything. Yes. And at some point, I think it was like maybe 3 years ago, we were like, I don't think we can keep doing like this is too much, right? So then we started like really looking at like what things make us happy and what can we do to make this a good life. And I think we cut some of the fat and we maybe focused a little bit on what it is that we like to do. We got better at saying no, although I'm not great at saying no. And it has been more enjoyable, I think.
Oh, I think so too. And
So what did you have to cut?
Pigs.
The pigs went.
Well,
Okay.
we cut chickens, and now they're back because one of our employees is running her own chicken operation on the farm.
That's cool.
But she's doing layers. We were just doing broilers. She's doing layers and broilers. But the layers, actually, it turns out I was never willing to give up that much daily time to egg washing and all that sort of stuff. But they fit the farm much better. Their impact fits the crop rotation much better than the broilers, which were in little tractors and we were pulling them around all the time. So it took more time in many ways, and it just, we couldn't cover a block of ground with them. We could cover a few beds a year, which was just never going to keep up with it. They did a great job on those few beds, but it wasn't really keeping up with the pace of the rest of the farm. So the layers work a lot better for that. And
that's pretty cool.
Potatoes are another thing.
Potatoes.
So now we trade. We grow carrots very nice, like easily for usually carrots are a really tough crop. Carrots grow really well here. Potatoes do not. We're in really heavy soil. And our neighbors to the south of us, just like on the other side of this river, it's really sandy down there. They grow really great potatoes. And finally I was like, can we just trade? And they were so happy because their potatoes are worth less money than our carrots are. But for us, like the value of not having to grow them, it saves me money to not have to grow them.
For sure.
Because we just want them for our CSA. So it's not like,
and ourselves.
Yeah, and ourselves. But like, I'm not taking him to the farmer's market. I'm not trying to do anything. You have to have potatoes in the CSA. So,
right.
That was like we do trade carrots for other things. I guess mostly just potatoes, right? Oh,
well,
we trade it for apples.
Yeah, they've become a big currency for us. But
carrots.
That's one thing that we've dove into more and more each year. Which was really just, we had a really good carrot year one year. And we thought, wow, this is going to turn out, we were getting double the yield we initially thought we were going to get, or expected to get. And so we thought, wow, we got a lot of carrots here. Maybe we reached out and said, is anyone looking for carrots? And a lot of people took us up on it. And they said, yeah, great. And it was mostly other CSAs in the area saying, you know what, my carrots didn't grow well this year. And we would take a few 100 pounds here and a few 100 pounds there. And then there were a couple of really large CSAs down farther in the southern part of the state and serving sort of like the Chicago area. And they were like, yeah, I mean, we'll take thousands of pounds of carrots. And all of a sudden it was just, they were really moving.
Now we're growing carrots for 7 CSA farms.
Right.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Good for you guys. That's cool.
Yeah, it kind of fits for us. And I always like worry that too much of our farm is becoming carrots because like, what if something happens, like that's the whole reason we're diversified,
right.
But it's always gone well so far. And
So you said you kind of rotate your box from week to week. Are there some things that are in the box every week and then like some things that some weeks it's in the box, sometimes it's not in the box? You want to talk about that a little bit?
So there's always 8 to 12 different things in the box. There's we have categories of things is the way I do it. You either get carrots or beets, and it's usually carrot, beets, like 3 carrots and then a beets. Sometimes it's carrot, beet. You never know. And then like a hearty thing. So there'll be potatoes or sweet potatoes or squash or just those bigger root things. Usually there's going to be cucumbers every week when we have them. There's tomatoes every week when we have them. There's always a fresh eating thing. So like peas or beans, or there's cherry tomatoes or strawberries. There's always an herb. So we rotate every kind of herb that we can grow, except for the ones that don't taste good. And what am I missing? And then there's like always like the seasonal like things like sweet corn when it comes, when the peppers,
melons when they come,
melons when they
strawberries
come, peppers usually are every
mushrooms when
week
they
that are
come.
around. Yeah, we do mushrooms as well. So
Very
I kind
cool.
of have like I don't know really the week before what's going to go in the box, but I have a general sort of recipe for what the box should be. We try really hard to make sure that the stuff can be like used together. So for example, you'd put like so like we have a salsa box that we do every year where I just put
That's
like
cool.
lots of paste tomatoes, and maybe I'll do some sweet peppers and some spicy peppers and cilantro and fresh onions and just things that would go well in a cilantro or in a salsa.
Yeah.
There's
Try
some
to get
soup
leeks
boxes.
and potatoes in the same box for
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
We also do dry beans and popcorn in case like something happens on the farm where we're feeling like, oh, that's kind of a light week. We can always put in dry beans or popcorn or maple
That's pretty
syrup.
neat.
We found that it just makes it nicer if you have some stable things here, just waiting for a disaster,
Take some of the pressure off.
Yep, it's good for my anxiety.
Do you bring in anything else from other farms? Do you include the laying like a dozen eggs or half a dozen eggs or any protein in those boxes, or just like straight vegetables and some fruit sometimes?
The box itself is just vegetables. We have a small share and a large share. And then there's another egg add-on that you can get either every week or every other week, and that's run completely by our employee.
Okay.
I market it through Red Door,
but it's happening here on our farm.
Yeah, it gets delivered through our farm. It goes to the same drop sites and everything.
Sure.
Then we buy in coffee for people who want to do a coffee add-on. And then
that's cool. I like that.
Yeah, it's pretty popular. And then we have a shrub add-on, which is, I'm not sure if you're familiar with shrub. It's kind of like a sipping vinegar. Siren Shrub is a friend of ours, and they're just south of us here. And so you can do like a shrub every month if you wanted to sign up for that. So those are just add-ons that you can do. This winter, we're also adding on like canning add-on. So like we have a winter share that goes 7 weeks long, and then we're going to add on this like canning share where you can get tomato sauce or salsas or pickles or all the other good things.
That's being done by someone else too, yeah. And she often comes and we'll pick for half, or we'll glean from the end of the bed.
So it's our stuff that's being canned.
Yeah, much of it's from our farm, and it's a local.
That's cool that it's coming back in just a different form. I like that. That's very cool.
We started really doing that last year. She had, we sort of trade and barter back and forth to some extent, but we had gotten out of whack, and she said, well, I owe you guys a bunch of money, and we're like, well, I would way rather have canned goods.
Right. So we didn't, and I just didn't get a lot. Usually I do like can a lot of tomato sauce and just food for the winter, and I just totally blew it. And I was just, so then I just was like, we'll just trade you. So we got like a case of tomato sauce and a case of salsa and a case of pickles, and that's all. I'm going to do that every year from now on. It was like such
never
a good
eaten
idea.
better.
I know. It's so good.
That's great. How many boxes do you put out a week then?
So that's a little complicated because our CSA is about 130 shares. Then I kind of talked a little bit about this other share that we do. It's for food banks. So that's a different box. It's mostly just like it is like a CSA, but it's more like recognizable, really popular staple food, like carrots and potatoes and green beans and tomatoes and things that everyone knows what to do with. And that one, it goes to different people all the time, so we don't have to worry about getting tons of variety all the time. And that's 50 more. So there's those 50, and then there's the 10 more that go to the Afghani families who also have a list of, I won't say requirements, but like wants and desires.
What does that look like? I'm curious about that. What is that like? The wants and desires, like wish list. What is?
So yeah,
and then what can you fulfill?
Yeah, we're putting it out now. So this is not something that they get to like choose what they're going to get. They're just letting us know what kind of food they're familiar with and what they would like. So yeah, I'm we
just sent that survey out. We haven't gotten it back yet. So.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well, we have like talked to them though, and like for example, like fresh herbs are a really big one. They really want a lot of fresh herbs, which is good because I wouldn't have known. Most people, when we do a lot of surveys, and when we get our surveys back from the CSA, there's a little wishy-washy about the fresh herbs. I think a lot of people don't know how to use because they're expensive and they're not very good in the grocery store. So unless you have access to fresh herbs, you kind of have to learn how to use them. Well, most like Afghani families, in my experience, know how to use herbs, tomatoes, eggplants, fennel is a big one, potatoes. There's really vegetable heavy diet. And that is a funny thing because they said, like, if you're Afghani and you don't have money, you eat vegetables. That's what like people who don't have money eat. And here they took their, it's the SNAP card to the store to get their vegetables, and they use the entire month in 1 week because it's out of season. It's out of season October. It's like out of season vegetables. You can't buy 25 pounds of tomatoes right now. So that was where we kind of thought, like, this is a need that we need to be able to fulfill. Like, we have vegetables, not now, but we will soon. So then we have those additional shares. They just look a little different. So it just like kind of plays a little different into that number.
What would you say the biggest challenge in farming has been, like that you faced? Has it been like marketing, getting up and going, trying to fill your CSA boxes, anything like that?
What do you think?
Being able to afford a tractor.
Yeah.
You know what? I think that there's been like a lot of there's a lot of steps, but I think we've always been really happy with our choices.
I think it's been learning while doing. So you can't stop. The show doesn't stop. You have to keep producing. There's still, everything's going to market and it's nonstop. So you have to be making emergency decisions, especially early on. It's getting a little bit less so, but you have to be able to make that emergency decision and table how I'm going to improve that for next season in many cases, or next, my next go around. So I think that is the hardest part, at least, as first generation farmers. It feels like,
we've gotten way better at disasters.
Disaster management specialist.
Just last year we had it was not a high tunnel, just a little one, like one of those caterpillar tunnels, and I watched it blow away and I was just like, shoot. And I just remember thinking like, boy, just like 2 years ago I would have cried so many tears. Instead I was just like, that's another thing we're gonna have to fix. It's just like I am numb to it now.
Sure.
The big thing for us though was learning to be employers and learning to be sort of managers and learning to run the farm as a business.
Sure.
Which just kind of goes back to, I think, a lot of those, successes and failures we were discussing earlier is, when it's a farm, it's easy to add this thing or that thing, and it's easy to want to do anything anybody's ever done on a farm. And you have a personal relationship with your customers, which is hugely valuable. And our farm would not be able to exist without that relationship. But it also means that you want to say yes to people. And everybody's got an idea for you. But unless you're actually here farming for a while and can think of something that fits well within the system on all the levels, it's rarely worth taking up. And I think so, we got into farming because we like digging in the dirt. We like eating. We like those sort of tangible aspects of farming. I don't particularly like working on tractors. We don't particularly like marketing and emails and internet surveys. That was a whole thing. But we've learned to do those things and to embrace them sort of for what they bring to the table. And so I love that I can get 80% of the weeding on the whole farm done in a day when conditions are right. So as much as I dislike swearing at rusty metal in the shop, I do like when it works.
Sure, absolutely. Let's talk about your employees a little bit. So how many employees do you have?
Well, we have one employee who's year-round, so never is here all year, and we have 2 more employees who will be full-time, and then we have 2 more employees who are part-time. Yeah, that's right. And then we both work on the farm full-time. So we don't
Yeah,
have
but you
other
guys work for free, so it doesn't count.
That is true. Truth.
It's very nearly
But
true.
It's nearly true. But we don't have off-farm jobs, which I think we do count as like part of the labor staff. So the one person that we have who works full-time year-round is on a salary, but they get paid kind of like a teacher does, where they get paid, you know, the same amount every month, but it's like working basically 30 hours a week, which makes it so in the summer, obviously, she's probably working like 50s and 60s. In the winter, she's working like 10, maybe.
Okay,
hours.
so that's a nice setup for them that, you know, hey, I feel like I'm working a lot during the summer because I am and not like getting paid for it, but that gets stretched out over, you know, the winter months where it's just I'm not working that much, but I'm still
we probably would
getting
be,
paid
you know,
for it.
otherwise we'd be paying by the hour, and it would probably add up to the same amount of money. But this
Right.
particular person just liked the comfort of knowing that they were going to have the same paycheck every month, which was something that was easy for us to do for them. So it was
That's
mostly
awesome.
just trying to make them comfortable.
And I'm sure it helps you guys too, because then it's not a bunch of money all summer. Then you know you have this steady expense every month, even through the
Yeah,
winter.
we just have to remember that we have to pay people in the winter because we don't make money in the winter.
Sure.
I mean, that part of it is nice. The one part of it, which is maybe almost counterintuitive, is that it makes me more self-conscious about asking her to do other things, you know, beyond the normal workday, because she's not directly compensated for that. And so it took us getting to where our farming style was pretty refined to the point where we weren't pulling late nights and early mornings and all hands on deck and calling in favors from every friend and family we could remember and that sort of stuff, to where we felt comfortable even offering that.
Yeah, our hours are I'm pretty strict on making sure that we start and end at the same time or like the time that's set. We don't often go over.
Right. And there's some, you know, where this storm is coming and everybody's gonna have to just hammer down and go and let's try to make this thing happen. But we do a lot of things to minimize those emergency situations, and when they're emergency situations, people largely understand.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
So our two employees we just finished. There's a veggie grower apprenticeship program that it just started in Wisconsin. These were the second and third apprentices to go through the program, and it's a 2-year program that teaches organic vegetable production. So they have a big gigantic booklet of things that we have to teach them, and then they do some online classes, they do some in-person classes, they go on some tours and everything, and they both now are graduating this year, and now have both decided to stay with this farm. So I think that's been a really good experience for us because we taught them so much. They're so valuable now, and because they understand everything about the way our farm works, I think our farm is pretty interesting, so they want to continue to stay. We also have on-farm housing, so we built 2 tiny houses that they live in.
That's cool.
They live on the farm and they get to kind of have the farm experience without having to, you know, drive back and forth from some crappy apartment in town or something like that.
Right.
So things that we can do to kind of like make it a nicer place to be, because we certainly like aren't the best paying place in town. You can like go to like the cheese factory down the road and make like $30 an hour right now. So we have to like
that's
an
really?
exaggeration, but not by a lot.
It's in the 20s.
It's Wisconsin. Of course there's cheese and it pays.
Oh yeah, that's real. There's like lots of cheese factories. That's not the $30 was an exaggeration, not the cheese factory.
Maybe not. I mean, I just saw a sign you can get $17.50 for overnight stocking at Walmart. So
yeah. So like we're obviously not going to be, we can't pay that, but we can like make this like a nice place to be and a nice life and a nice farm. And I think people just can have a more holistic idea of what it is if you're staying, because I think part of the benefit, part of like the payout of having a farm, and it's not just this, but is being able to be here and having, you know, the sunrise and the sunset and right now we have sandhill cranes I don't know if you guys
That's
get
cool.
sample cranes, but they sound like dinosaurs. They're like the big, with like flocks of them in our field.
That's cool.
It is very cool.
That's really cool. Because I was going to ask you how you retain employees, and it sounds like housing's a big deal. Consistent hours are a big deal. What else do you guys do to try to
Well, this
retain
apprenticeship
those employees?
program,
So we spend a lot of time teaching them, finding out what they're interested in, and trying to like help them pursue that. So like, for example, Alex is doing the chickens, so we're helping her with her chicken business, supporting her in that way. Ethan was horrified that we were giving up the potatoes, so he has a little potato side gig that he's doing, and we sell those for him. Just like, I also like genuinely love my employees. Like, they bring so much value to the farm, and they make farming so much more fun that it's not hard for me to like be respectful of them or try to make them happy, because I like them. I like who they are, and I would like them to be happy.
That's really cool.
They get they get a stipend for gear because it's cold here. So I try to make sure that they're able to afford the things they need to make it a comfortable workplace. I don't know, just hire good people, I guess.
Yeah, and I think
they stick around.
We learned to value employees because we realized that we were not going to make this farm run on our own. And we don't just need somebody to show up and be here on time and, toil a certain amount. We need somebody who's invested in what we're doing here and is interested in farming. It doesn't have to be exactly for our reasons, but they have to have some reason why this is important to them, and that they are motivated to see this thing succeed. And then we had to change our work style and the way we sort of organize a lot of things too, to make it so that is reflected in the way the day, we all show up and help make this thing happen. And it's not like, okay, you're going to go do this for 10 hours and try to make sure you've got at least this much done by 5. It's, here's what needs to happen so that we're in good shape going into next week, and let's all work together and get this done. And so I think it's a bit more collaborative, which is big talk for me. I actually largely putter around on my own.
That's exactly what it is. So, we said, he was like, we work so well together. We rarely work together. That's actually the reality.
Is that the key? Is that the key?
We work so well together.
Yeah.
There you go.
How we work so well together is I rarely see him all day.
I might put that on a shirt and send it to you guys.
No, I basically will run the crew, and I'm in charge of like basic vegetable production. He just gets everything prepped and does tractor work. And sometimes I think it's like, oh, we're falling into those roles. I never wanted to fall into those roles. But then I'm like, but actually I'm doing the part that I want to do, and he's doing the part that he wants to do. So why are we pretending like that's not a real thing? And he makes lunch, so that helps my ego.
I think it's because that he's hungry and he wants to eat. And he's like, well, since I'm here,
he will just wait.
I will. I'll just be like,
that
seems like a lot. I have a lot to do here. And then he's like, no, we're definitely eating right now.
I'm the same way. Like, hey, guess what? I made breakfast, and Milo and I already ate. So here you go.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Oh, you're still in bed? That's fine. Take your time.
Yep.
I think retaining employees is also another key to being sustainable, because if you have high turnover, that's not very sustainable. What are you doing in your system that you just have you never keep the same people year after year, or even month to month if it's really bad? So what else makes you guys sustainable?
Oh, it's such a good question.
And that's really astute. I just was having a conversation with a neighboring farmer about this, and that is one of the main keys to sustainability is.
Well, there's 2 types of sustainability, right? Because we talk all the time about the sustainability of the agriculture, which we're doing, right? We're all striving to be as sustainable as possible. But so many of farms like ours are unsustainable in the other sense, where they cannot keep this up. And you're absolutely right that like having good employees is what sustains the farm to be able to continue working. There's so many farms like us, this size of farm, and kind of like what we're doing, the CSA model, that burn themselves out. There's lots of friends who are divorced, lots of friends who are just ready to quit and just not enjoying it anymore. And so we talk all the time about like what that aspect of sustainability, because we know we're doing a pretty good job in the other aspect of sustainability, but like what are we doing to make sure that we can keep farming? And like one of them is like you have to make money. So like I think for us, money was a bad word for a little while. We were like, but we're trying to do a good thing, it shouldn't be all about the money, but there has to be, because we like to pay our employees well, because like we like to be able to feel like we can make it without having another job, because we do a better job if we're here on the farm. We can't do a good job if we don't feel like our kids are being taken care of. So like having a babysitter come has been our like that for a while. They were our best paid employee with babysitter, because like without the kids being happy and well cared for, we absolutely could not continue on. Do you want to add to this? I'm rambling now.
No, I think that's exactly right. And I think, it's easy to overlook that. And I specifically came to farming from a ecological mindset, and that was my main impetus for this. And I tend to bog down in that. But not to take anything away from that, it's super important.
Right.
And I think that's among the biggest things that we as a society can do. It's reprioritizing how we facilitate or subsidy program and all that sort of stuff to allow farmers to do a better job of that. But at the end of the day, I can tell that the farm is healthier, the soil is healthier, the plants want to grow, the whole farm ecosystem is healthier, and that's what I need to use as my metric, rather than being on the cutting edge of every regenerative ag option, because we need to pay people, and we need to have a lifestyle that is sustainable for us, but also like a farm lifestyle that is, respectful. And, our season is manic by its short nature, but the day can't feel manic all the time. So there has to be start points and end points, and sometimes you just have to triage certain things and let them go and try to do a better job next year or not, or whatever.
One thing that we did that was like just a concrete example was, so my kids were little. I mean, they're still pretty little. They're 6 and 9 now, but when they were really little, I would wake up in the morning to be at work by 6 so we could get all the really, heat sensitive stuff out of the ground. And then I wouldn't see them. They would go off to daycare, and I was always like, I'm not like missing out on this like part of my kid's life, and I didn't feel good about that. So we made mandatory breakfast. So we pay our employees to take breakfast so that I can come in and have breakfast with my kids. So we work from 6 to 7:30, and then everybody goes home and they have a cup of coffee and they eat some breakfast, and I get to hang out with my kids for a little bit, and then we start back up at 8 o'clock. And what I found is I'm happier because I get to see everybody. Everyone just is like a cleaner, nicer day. But the employees actually were like way happier, even though they said that they didn't want it. They were like, no, let's just get it done. But everybody needs to eat and poop and, just get recharged a little bit. Working from 6 to noon is way too long, really, even for people who are tough and believe they can. Like everyone has like a sugar thing that happens in their brain. So when we started doing that, we started becoming more productive. Yeah. So like just taking the time to like recognize what makes people happy actually made people more productive. And I was doing it for my own selfish reasons, but now we're like, it's mandatory breakfast. So
That's crazy that someone would also want to have breakfast and just like be able to like wind down and
Well, and the thing was they were doing the same thing that I was doing, which was like getting up and just walking out the door, with
because you're not hungry at 5.
No, you're not hungry at 5.
Right. Yeah, unless you're like a bodybuilder, then you eat like 6 whole chickens a day or whatever. You gotta like eat at 5 and then 8 and 2 and whatever. But anyways, so Tenzin, you mentioned soil health. Is there a relationship between soil health and human health, do you think?
Absolutely.
How so?
Unequivocally. I think, a healthy soil is both leads to a healthy plant and is caused by a healthy plant. They feed off of each other. And that robust soil biology is what creates the plant available nutrients and minerals and allows that plant to be in optimal health and contain all the pieces that it wants to contain. And I think, it's really easy, right? If you look at an animal, nobody sees a sick cow and gets hungry. You know what I mean? But then we tend to sort of somehow like step away from that when it comes to plants. And I think that it's just foolish. I think when you're in the grocery store, you want to pick the shiniest, best looking tomato. When you're walking in the woods, if you're a forager, you're going to like want to eat. They look like you want to eat them and they taste better and they're certainly better for you.
Yeah. You eat with your eyes first. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. And that's led us down some weird rabbit holes, as far as growing tomatoes that taste like cardboard, but look real bright and shiny even after a long truck ride. But so I'll say it this way. There's a direct correlation between soil health and plant health, and there's a direct correlation between plant health and human health.
And the time that it takes between the time that you harvest the plant and eat the plant, which I think is something that people don't talk about enough either. Like, it could be a very healthy plant, but the second it gets cut, it starts losing nutrition from that point until it hits your plate. And so, like, buy local.
Yeah. I mean, there's a whole market. I think it's like one of the like ads in Instagram or whatever, it's like Misfit Market, where it's just like ugly food or whatever that would otherwise like be discarded, or and maybe that is like nutrient dense food, but like it just for whatever reason it doesn't make it to the supermarket because it's ugly, or who knows what it is that they do with those. But I just want good looking food. I don't actually care if it's if it has any nutrients. Like, it looks good, so it must be good, right? Like, well, did you actually know that those strawberries that got to that grocery store were wrapped in nitrogen, and that's why the top is still white? Like, things like that. Like, people are like, oh, whoa, that's crazy. I didn't know that. So last question here, and then we start wrapping up. Is food equality important?
Absolutely.
And what do you mean by that?
I think that food equality is hugely important. And I guess what I mean by food equality is that people have access to healthy, fresh, high quality food. And to me, it feels like something that should be very basic, sort of a basic structure of our culture. But we've gotten away from that as we, do all the weird things to make food look good in the supermarket. We create this really bizarre shift where there's tons of waste and tons of very pretty food with no nutrient value, and then all these places where it's not even worth bringing the produce trucks in, and you create these food deserts and things. So there's a lot of weird spin-offs that have happened all along that way. And that was one of the things that was really near and dear to us starting, was wanting to make sure that whatever happens, whether it's supply chain disruption or whatever, in the economy and wherever, that our community would have access to food. And we can't obviously supply everyone, but we try to do what we can to make that access equitable. And that is a really tricky thing, because we also very much do not want to undercut our neighbors and make it difficult for other people to enter into this marketplace. So like I said, we can't serve everybody in our community. We're serving 130 families plus these other ones. So somewhere between 200 and 300 families a week during the growing season. And that's great. And it feels really good. But I obviously realize that that's quick math, 1% of our.
Well, there needs to be more. So what it needs to come down to is like, I feel like we're setting the blueprint for making it so it's possible for more farms like us to exist. So we're trying to figure out how to do it, for one thing. How can you grow vegetables in this area? What are the seeds that need to be bred to make it so it's possible to grow things here that maybe aren't really. We do a lot of like variety trials for the UW Madison. We're trying to figure out like what can grow here and what kind of seeds do the best for the diseases we have, the short growing season, all of these sort of things.
Sure. And
what I really think is like, we are serving probably people who either can obviously can afford it, or make it a priority to make sure that food, like this kind of food, is in their diet. And then we also serve probably the other end of that scale, which is people who can't afford it, and we're sending that food to the food banks. Now, the food bank food is being subsidized by the people who are buying the food through donations. So we're either writing grants or we're just asking them for the money. Yeah. And then that money, that food is also being bought for the underserved community. Now we're missing a huge portion of like middle. Basically the entire middle is missing there. And we realize that that's a shortcoming, but also I don't think that it's possible for us we can't serve everybody. So all we can do is sort of like show that this is a possible way of farming and you can make a living at it. And I think it's also important that we do make a living at it. So we shouldn't lower our prices. And yeah, like I said, just do like the research that it takes so that when those food chains get disrupted and when the right people come along, that those gaps can be filled.
But we also do a lot to minimize that middle ground. So we work with our farmers market. They will double food stamp dollars, essentially. So when you cash in your EBT card, you get double available to spend at the market. We work with an organization out of Madison called Fair Share, which has a share program. And so they are getting donations and grants and things like that. And they will basically contribute to offset the price of CSA shares for any of their member CSA farms. And that goes down to, I think people can get a full share for like $25, and they've got a metric, and you just say how many people are in your family and what your annual income is. I still
think that's hitting kind of like the,
Yeah, but I think we do a lot to make it not so bougie and handouty, and there's education going all along there to try to erode these sort of societal stigmas around farmers market, local food, organic vegetables. And it's a weird, kind of like Stacey was saying with, in Afghanistan, if you don't have as much money, what is readily available is local vegetables, and what might cost more might be meats and cheeses and those sorts of things. And whereas here, that's all a little bit topsy-turvy in some ways. You can get really, not great quality food, but very calorie dense food for less money. And
I also really believe like those boxed food, like especially when they are giving those out at the food pantries and things, like anybody who's trying to like work their way out of poverty, anyone who's trying to like go to school, if you don't have proper nutrition straight out of the gates, like you're already so far behind.
Yeah.
Like we should,
Yeah.
I honestly think like there's no point in having extra school programs. There's no point in any of those things until there's proper nutrition, because it's just, you can't do it. It's impossible. It's like,
Yeah. Good food will get, clear up your head. Like if you have crap food, you get brain fog. And that's why
especially for
you feel
kids, like
dumb.
you can't
Yeah,
feed
especially
kids
kids.
Pop-Tarts and think they're going to like sit through class all day. Like we want.
You can't feed me Pop-Tarts and think I'll sit through
Yeah.
class all day.
You couldn't sit through class
Yeah.
anyway. So I just
Trust
like
the Pop-Tarts.
we're on like lots of boards. I'm on the Hunger Coalition board, which deals with lots of food pantry stuff, and Tenzin's on the Neighbors Place board, which it is the food pantry. So we're taking over the food pantry world here. But just like to better understand the way that the food system works and how we can serve it better.
That's interesting. That's pretty cool. Was there anything if you have time after we're done, I've got a couple like very specific questions. If you got time. But other than that, is there anything that we didn't cover that you wanted to talk more on, or explain a little bit, or like, hey, we didn't talk about this at all?
I don't really have anything specifically, except for I just like if there are people who are interested in farming or homesteading or however this like line of thinking, sometimes I think it's so romantic, and it is, and I don't think you should ever lose the romanticism of it, but it also is like, it's good work, but it's real work that also deserves to be paid. And I think that it's really important, especially for like farmers who are just starting out, or anybody who's willing to put a significant amount of energy into a project like this. Like it has to be worth it, or you won't continue doing it. You can't. Like something more important will always come and take over. So if it's something that you really believe in and you really want to continue doing it, you have to make sure it continues to be worth it. And that might mean monetarily, if that's something that's important to you, or it might mean the time that it takes, or the food that you're getting back, or whatever it is, but it has to be worth it.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I actually skipped over that question intentionally, thinking that we didn't have time to get to it. So I'm glad you brought that up on people getting started. So I appreciate that. Tenzin, was there anything else that you wanted to wrap up on?
No, I don't think so. I feel like that was pretty good.
Yeah, thanks.
You guys compliment each other very well.
Yeah, nice shirt.
Now, like, I actually do kind of like the big FU on your shirt. I kind of think that's fun.
Yeah, thanks. That was actually a really old Farmers Union logo.
It's the Farmers Union.
I
didn't even know he was wearing that.
That I have to assume was, maybe less
on purpose,
less in your face than it comes across now at the time. But we unearthed it.
I like it.
We said, "Oh, this is cool. We should bring this logo back," and so we printed up some shirts.
Perfect. Love it. Do you guys? Wow. Do you guys want to let people know where they can find you, follow you, know more about what you're doing?
Well, I think that you could easily find us at Red Door Family Farm on Instagram or Facebook, or our website is reddoorfamilyfarm.com. I
will have links to both of those in the show notes.
We sell pretty locally, but in case you want to poke around and just, see who we are and what we're all about, you're welcome to check it out.
Yeah, you guys got a blog. That's pretty cool. So people can learn more about what you're doing that way.
The blog has been a little neglected lately.
If you want to know what they were doing, that's okay. I
think our kids were like a whole different grade when the blog was being written.
Maybe it'll come back now that I said something.
It might. You reminded me.
Yeah. So I appreciate your time. Thank you for being here.
Yeah. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us on.
You're welcome.